Very good afternoon, everyone. Charles here, FRGNT Daily Chart Analysis. The time just approaching 1:30 local here in Milan. Tuesday, the 14th of April, 2026. Bit late to the charts today. It's not a problem. It appears I haven't missed anything that I would have potentially looked to have taken anyway. So, where are we in the here and now? Well, we'll start with the DXY as always, even more so, with the fundamentals really been driven, in my opinion, by the DXY. And it's only my opinion, so take it with a grain of salt and use it as you wish. But using the technicals staged alongside the fundamentals, we'll go to that weekly time frame and see exactly what's going on. For me here, if I point out with some good illustrations, here was a bit of the telltale sign that in fact potentially, and you can tell me, after a high, we're of course expecting a higher low for a potential higher high continuation. So using that ethos and using that theory, hence why I am now looking for long positions on the DXY. Then using the fundamentals, and I must admit, I am not a fundamental expert. It's the technical analysis that I hang my trading ability on. So I'm taking that most certainly with a grain of salt, the fundamentals coming out of the DXY. But it would make sense for the dollar to want to push higher based on what we're seeing in the global side of things at the moment. So with all of the technicals married up with the fundamentals, here we are in the charts. What do we have? Well, we've got a weekly order block just here, of which this order block is the order block that, in my opinion, gave us that nice sign with this bullish candle close above an area in the market. It's as simple as that. However, what we must use is those facts after a higher low continuation. So once we start to refine those areas down and head down for our lower time frame points of interest using our top-down analysis, we can see that weekly order block. When we start to refine that area down beautifully, we do have now a daily order block in that area. And we can see as we start to refine, we can now see to the left-hand chart, bottom left-hand chart, that 4-hour time frame. Now, there's also a gap there, hence why I'm not convinced just yet to be looking for shorts across our cross pairs of the DXY, i.e. GU, EU, and AU. Although they look grand, I'm of the mindset that this gap is going to be filled before we then have the move towards the upside. If I'm wrong, I'm well prepared for that, and I can show you on the 15-minute time frame now on that top left-hand chart, make it slightly bigger. Where in case, if I'm wrong, the charts are hit with some alerts, i.e. price breaking up above certain structure levels as price makes those lower lows and lower highs on the DXY. I'm simply just moving my alert down to match up with structure. Once I see structure points broken on that DXY to the upside, I of course will then see structure points broken to the downside on my cross pairs. That will then give me a nice clue that potentially the DXY is ready to make its move towards the upside, and then in comparison I will then look for breaks of structure, pullbacks, entry shorts on those cross pairs. So with that said, the best case scenario would be, of course, for price to pop down into those order blocks, of which we've done our good work to refine those areas down. However, what I have seen of late is the DXY on the lower time frames may not respect, or they certainly respect, but may not come down to these order blocks. It might well just give us that break of structure, which will then leave us with an order block left behind on the 15-minute time frame, and then it's for us to utilize that across our cross pairs, as I've just mentioned. So waiting for that at the moment on the DXY. I'll pop that alert slightly higher, and just in case I miss that and price absolutely wallops down, I'll have another alert down at these lows as the DXY seeks to approach that 4-hour order block that we can see just here. So for the time being, I'm very much so bullish on the DXY, but it's one to admit that I can quite clearly see that bearishness taking over. So in terms of targets on the DXY, once we have broken that 15-minute structure, hopefully we do so, I'll be then looking to take the DXY potentially up towards the daily and the 4-hour 50 MA before then also looking to manage my positions on the cross pairs when price reaches there on the DXY. So I hope that makes sense first and foremost. Now, in good confluence with the DXY, we're using US dollar CAD. If the US dollar CAD is looking to go long, we'll double check the DXY to see if does it make sense that now US dollar CAD is correct to want to look to go long. And then of course we will make the decision across the better looking pair to take the trade of the day. So again, much like the DXY, we can see here on US dollar CAD, we have bounced off that lowest weekly order block over here. So I'm not really of the belief that price is going to want to look to come down below these order blocks or even retest anywhere in the vicinity as a result of price now having or approaching another weekly order block, and it is the only weekly order block that we have in that leg. And I'm looking at the top right hand chart. So as price approaches that, much like the same on the DXY, I'm looking to refine those areas down and understand where we lie within those lower time frames. The good thing and what I like about US dollar CAD, not necessarily that I will take the position long on US dollar CAD, but I like that the previous weekly candle closed bullish above that weekly 50 MA. So my bias is very much so leaning towards exactly the same. If the previous weekly candle closed above that weekly 50 MA, I have the mindset that the current weekly candle, once it finds that liquidity and imbalance below that weekly 50 MA, price will then look to push and again have the incentive to close above that weekly 50 MA. So that matches my overall. There's the alerts going off. That matches my overall consensus at the moment that US dollar CAD could have the potential to push bullish, most certainly above that weekly 50 MA. And if you look at that bottom right hand chart, price closed above the daily 50 MA yesterday as well. So we have a lot of stacked confluence for the US dollar CAD to want to push bullish today based on that daily 50 MA. So that's giving me light that potentially DXY is ready to move today as well. And as well as the fact that I'm looking to trade across the cross pairs, i.e. GU, EU, and AU, then potentially I will be in line to take a short today as well. So once we start to marry up all of that confluence across the lower time frames, I'm looking to refine those areas down. The good news, or more so, depends how you want to take it. There are no other 4-hour order blocks in this leg as I look at the bottom left-hand chart. Therefore, I must seek to find one that price is seemingly reacting from at the moment and attempt to make it make sense. Now, the way I'm looking to do that, if I just pop over to the left-hand side, we can see that the only daily order block available within the vicinity of that weekly order block is just here, where price is currently trading within. So as I've started to refine that daily order block down, here we are within the 4-hour order block. So I like the reaction at the moment. Of course, we are very bearish pulling into those areas, so it's not in terms of looking for immediate entries. The only way that I can safeguard myself against taking a potential stop loss sooner rather than later is to wait for those lower time frame breaks of structures. In an ideal scenario, what I would do is wait for a bullish 4-hour candle engulfing the rest or engulfing the most recent 4-hour candles, and then naturally I'll simply be waiting for price to retrace back into the imbalance before then taking that position long. However, I know myself, I know I'll probably want to get in this position, if not a cross pair, sooner rather than later. And again, I'll bring you to that 15-minute time frame where the sense can be made. Right, so where are we? Much like what we're doing on on the DXY, we're trying to identify some structure areas in the market, give ourselves that best case scenario by waiting for price to break those areas. As you can see now, price has broken and closed below the 15-minute order block that I would potentially be looking to utilize. And what we can say is using the DXY as confluence, potentially US dollar CAD just simply isn't ready yet. And if it's not, I'll have to do something in line with this. As price starts to trend down, I'll just simply have to continually move my structure points and wait for price to break a significant structure point, allow me to reselect an imbalance down at the lows before then looking to potentially take US dollar CAD long. However, with that said, like on the DXY, if the DXY believes or begins to turn around sooner rather than later, here is where the most recent structure point, in my opinion, lies at the most recent lower high area. So got an alert as price would look to push that area. I've got a couple of alerts below as well, and we'll just see what happens with price. And just to recap this element back here, as price starts to make lower lows and lower highs, it's my job simply to react to that, move my structure point down, wait for that break of structure, pull back, and off we go. So that's US dollar CAD, a bit of a quick recap on that. With that said, if US dollar CAD wants to push the highs, then equally Euro US dollar may well look to push to the lows. Now, what we can see here on Euro US dollar, we're again approaching or trading within that higher time frame weekly order book. So that's good news. We're expecting some sort of reaction from that. We'll refine that area down. We're within this daily order block. We continue to refine our areas down using top-down analysis to understand, are we looking in the correct places in the market? In my opinion, currently, yes, I am. So I like the way how the previous 4-hour candle closed. It could certainly have been better, i.e. leave me more of a wick to the high, then allow price to retrace back up to that wick. What that wick would simply be is lower time frame breaks of structures, and we're looking for the pullback into the area before looking to go short. Wasn't the case, so of course we currently do not have conclusive breaks of structures on that 15-minute time frame. So rinse and repeat. That's one thing you will get from me is consistency in my trading approach. So again, like on the previous two, well, the DXY explained, US dollar CAD explained, I'm simply in the market waiting for a break of structure. Hopefully so, just like on the previous, price pulls up into the area that which I'm looking to speculate from, then proves itself by breaking structures, leave the imbalance left up at the highs for me to take a short once price returns back to that area. So that's where I'm at currently on Euro US dollar. And as you can see, based on the charts that I've delivered over the last hour, much of the thought process is simply confirmation. Confirmation. Don't jump, await confirmation. Don't jump, await confirmation. And that it's as simple as that, to be honest. So we can see that price is within or approaching our points of interest. But at the moment, we don't particularly have a setup criteria. Once a setup criteria aligns, and it's as simple as await your entry criteria, whether you're looking for a lower time frame break of structure after the significant breaks of structure on the 15-minute time frame, whether you're looking for a particular candlestick formation, a bearish engulfing candle on a 15-minute time frame, or any other time frame that may be. It's important to wait for the setup first before then awaiting your entry criteria. So that's Euro US dollar, quickly raced through that, and it's much of the same, to be fair, on the cross pairs. We're seeing it. We are absolutely seeing that price is in the areas. AUD US dollar is a bit of a favorite to me. Not the only favorite, but as a result of this, it depends on the way how you see it. But how I currently see it is that price was just hovering in the range. We've had that, and we've had this significant break below that range. So again, much like the basics of trading, once you have a lower low created in the market, we shouldn't really be surprised to see price wanting to pull back up to an area of imbalance, create that lower high before create that lower low continuation. The only downside for us is, or for me personally, is I will not be in the market to see price make that lower low. I'll be out of the market if a short does present itself a lot sooner. And the reason for that is the fact, if you look at that daily time frame, the daily 50 EMA is currently keeping price above it. Therefore, I am indeed expecting a reaction from that. And once we go to the 4-hour time frame, we can't hide the fact that most recent price action is very much so bullish. Therefore, we have to respect that and understand if price is definitely respecting that 4-hour 50 EMA that we can see here, even with that wick into that 4-hour 50 EMA, and price has just rocketed off from that. And bear in mind, that's even just from a market gap to the lows. It then decides to respect that 4-hour 50 EMA. So, of course, I too will have to respect that 4-hour 50 EMA and manage my position by that. So again, like what we've described on Euro US dollar, GU US dollar CAD, I'm simply highlighting areas in the market, structure, key structure points, minute structure points as well. If I was looking to take that aggressively, if the DXY was seemingly not having any real pullbacks as such, Can I understand that if there is a lower time frame break of structure, would I look to take that position? Perhaps. We'll have to see how the cookie crumbles across the rest of the day. But AUD/USD for me is a bit of a favorite as a result of that break of structure, in my opinion, on that weekly time frame. The alternative, I'm open to looking at things slightly different. After a high, this simply could be a pullback, higher low for a high continuation. I quite understand that, but based on the DXY looking to go long from those areas down at the lows, also pairing that with GU and EU looking to short from those areas, I am with the mindset that this indeed is the first low, looking for that lower high for the lower low continuation. So at the moment, we're having a little bit of a reaction from that area. In particular, that would be a wick imbalance. There is no 15-minute order block just yet. However, the wick imbalance entry would be a slightly aggressive entry for me at this time, and I'm just simply going to stick with the overall strategy, which is wait for those breaks of structures and then wait for price to come back up. So it might not even be today, to be quite honest. It could well be tomorrow morning, hopefully so, if price hasn't moved too far overnight. So that's AU at this time. GU very similar, in fact pretty much identical. The only difference here is we've got the wick imbalance married up with that 15-minute order block, so it's very much so all systems go for that, waiting for a break of structure pullback, and I'll definitely be looking for the short as well. The higher time confluence of course does support the short as well. You just can't see this higher time frame weekly order block superimposed lower than the 4-hour time frame. But with that said, you can quite clearly see how price is coming up to that wick imbalance, of which we've had that reaction from already. Weekly order block, refine those areas down. There is a daily order block up at these highs as well that I've failed to put on, but nevertheless we can see that price is in and around a key point in the market. And what I mean by that is, if you take this as one long push in the market, creating that low, here we are creating that lower high for a potential lower low continuation. It's as simple as that, in my opinion. So at the moment, of course, still very much so bearish despite the overall bullish sentiment coming out of the market. Hence why, in order for me to take a short position, I simply need to await confirmation to ensure that I don't take something like this, i.e. shorting immediately. Price looks to come down, doesn't break structures, simply makes a higher low and continues up to make a higher high. So that's the only way, and it's the very good way to safeguard myself against pointless losses, when I can quite clearly see that market sentiment at the moment across those cross pairs are most certainly bullish as a result of the DXY clearly emitting bearish signs at this time, with no clear reason for a turnaround just yet, but for technical analysis. Technical analysis was one thing, setup criteria is another, entry criteria is another on top of that. So once we've stacked those layers of confluence, then of course I will be in a position. GCAD, I've not marked it up fully, to be honest. I feel like I've got more than enough to concentrate on at the moment. But just in terms of the higher time frame, you can also see GCAD approaching that daily order block, daily wick imbalances. We've got tremendous room to the downside, which looks good. And also refine within those areas. We can see again, like on the previous pair, GU, a low in the market was created from somewhere within this area. It's my job to try and locate where that liquidity lies. Refine the daily down into the 4-hour. We can quite clearly see prices coming on its way back up, and then potentially for, doesn't mean that we necessarily need to take full advantage of the lower low. I'm looking to take a couple of percent out of the market, close my trade for the day, and job is a good one. So at the moment, that's where I am. Even on GCAD, without it being marked up, it's not something that I will be trading today as a result of having more than enough to concentrate on. Are we going to get that movement on the DXY? Once we do, can I see that movement confirmed on the US dollar CAD and also on the cross pairs, where I'll then be looking to trade? So that's the update pre-New York Open, to be fair. I hope that is of benefit to you all. It's my pleasure to produce this kind of content, and I do appreciate the support across all the channels. I hope they're benefiting you. And yeah, as I've mentioned in the breakdowns before I disappear, don't jump, just await the confirmation. If price moves without you and fails to pull back, guess what? It simply was never your setup in the first place. The whole point of trading these markets is to push your strategy upon the markets, not chase it, right? So therefore, if your strategy doesn't come to you, It's very simple. My strategy was not there in the first place. So, all the very best in your trading journey, team. Of course, as always, I will let you know how I'm getting on. But for now, no positions are active, simply waiting. And I'll probably go have some lunch, get on with my day, and then see how the afternoon plays once New York kicks in. One thing to mention, and you can hold me to this, is let's say, for a good example, London opens, it pushes one way. New York opens, potentially is going to push the other. Just keep that in mind. All right, team, that's me out. Do take care. Charles, all the very best.